sooner or later, a conflict will come into any relationship, and that's okay. But it's how you deal with it that matters. Can you remember what led to your last major argument? What emotions were you experiencing? What was said? Arousal is the term used to describe your emotional state of mind. Usually, people will have a baseline arousal level where they can think clearly and communicate well. However, if something gets you out of this baseline, you are now in an aroused state. This can be useful as moderate levels of stress can improve performance at tasks. In relationships, being in a bad mood can be highly detrimental to good communication. Being upset makes you more impulsive and less tolerant of the other person's perspective, so even if you had a good idea of how to approach the matter at hand, you get sidetracked by what's on your mind. You and your partner may be right next to each other in the same room, but it doesn't mean you're necessarily in the same emotional space. Many couples spend a lot of time together without being truly present with each other. When you're passively together, you're not connecting at a deep level. An active state of togetherness is when you are both aware of how the other person feels and are enjoying their company. It's okay if your conversation is banal. This state of consciousness comes from your comfortable level of intimacy with one another. So how do you make sure you are present when spending time with your partner? A great way to accomplish this is through mindfulness. Being mindful means being in the moment and not being distracted. Simply notice what she is doing. Do not be critical or judgmental, merely be there for her. Effective verbal communication involves more than just speaking your mind. One of the most important things you can do is listen to the other person and demonstrate that you've done so by fact-checking what they've said, asking follow-up questions, and adding supporting details. Then, you need to acknowledge what your partner is saying if you want them to keep talking, and keep listening to you. Before you start a conversation, know what you want to say. Negative emotional arousal is extremely hard to manage, especially in heated situations. If you're already upset, the last thing you need is to attack your partner's behavior instead of telling him how you feel. Be honest about how you feel and why. Don't assume that your partner can read your mind. Being indirect will only lead to misunderstandings. Specifically state what is on your mind and avoid making judgments. Validation means that you understand and acknowledge your partner's feelings. It's not always easy to know the correct response, but it's essential to try. Statements like "I know you're disappointed" show that you care and comfort your partner. This builds closeness and reduces negative arousal, thereby making your partner more open and comfortable. You've probably said something hurtful before in a conversation with your partner. Even if it was unintentional, you know it's not a good feeling to have done so. Validation helps you avoid those situations moving forward by eradicating the root of the problem, poor word choice. Validation is an essential part of good communication. It's necessary to listen to your partner and let her know she's being heard. People feel validated when they know they matter and when their opinions, emotions, and desires are respected, even if they disagree. Don't be afraid to ask questions to clarify your understanding. Communication is a critical factor in any healthy relationship. And as much as we'd love to believe that the ability to talk out our problems will prevent issues from occurring, it doesn't always turn out that way. But communication does help you manage issues in relationships. Identifying problems is the first step to managing them. To solve a problem, make sure to be very specific and detailed when analyzing it. Avoid the common trap of saying, "You always do this." Break it down. You can even write down a timeline to figure out where things started to unravel.